Welcome to part 2. Let's check out really quick what we will have at the end of this tutorial. So you can see the names above the head, you can see the Steam avatar, and we can also hear toggling between the ready status by either pressing this button or a key. And then you can see also it replicates here, and now this button also became clickable that the server can start a match if all players are ready. So the first thing I'm gonna do is creating a structure that is storing some basic information about our player. So I'm creating here a new blueprint structure and calling this s_player lobby info, opening this, and the first variable here I'm calling PC, setting the type to player controller. The second variable then will be player name, and setting the type to text. And the third one, be ready, and a boolean. And finally, the last one, I'm calling player state and setting this here to type player state. And this will be relevant for the Steam avatar. So then going back here and creating a new user interface widget blueprint. User widget, calling this WB_player lobby info. Here I'm starting adding a border for our background. And before we're doing anything here, I'm changing this from fill screen to desired. So we'll see in here how it will look in the end. And yeah, the border, so the background here, I'm setting the brush color to black and maybe an alpha of 0.3. In here, I'm adding a vertical box where I set the padding to 0. And in this vertical box, I'm now adding another border. So this will be the background for our first row of this widget. I'm setting this to black and 0.3 in alpha, or let's say 0.5 in alpha. And in this border, I'm adding a horizontal box. And this horizontal box, I'm now adding a general padding of 6. So in this horizontal box, I'm starting with a size box that will hold our avatar image. So I'm getting here an image, dragging this in the size box, and setting the size box here in the width and height, maybe let's say to 40. And also in the size box, setting the vertical alignment here to center. Then the image, I will rename it to I_avatar. And next to the size box here, so in the horizontal box, I'm adding a text block and renaming this to T_player name and setting here the text by default maybe to name. Also want to add here a bit of padding in between. So I'm going back to the size box and adding to the right a padding of maybe 8. Then I'm adding another text to the vertical box, setting the padding to 6. So the same padding I used here for the for this horizontal box, and setting the color here to 0.3 in the alpha. And by default, I want to type in here, not ready. So now, if later, if the ready status would change, and here it would only be then ready, when I change this, then you will see that the widget width overall decreases, and to prevent that, we can set a minimal width for this widget. So if the name is very long, the widget will still be extended in the width. But yeah, if the name is short, we can set here minimal width. So I'm wrapping this first border here with a size box and going here in min desired width and just increasing this until we see here anything that it's getting a bit bigger, like so. So if the ready text now would switch to ready, then it stays in its minimal width and the widget size is not changing, like when players are toggling between ready and not ready. So setting this back to not ready again. Then we can go to the graph where I'm adding a variable. And this will be our player lobby info with the type that we created up here, player lobby info. Here I'm creating a new function, which I call update, dragging in the player lobby info, set this here, and dragging this pin on the update node. So it creates here automatically a new pin. Then we can break it here to get our information. First of all, the player name. We're going back to the designer, click on the name, and make sure the player name is here, is variable here, is ticked. So if we go back now, we have it here as variable and can drag it in. And then we can set the text here to the player name. For the ready status, we are getting this one here. Also setting is variable ticked. We can also rename this here to T ready maybe. So make sure this is a variable. We're getting this. Again, we need a set text node. And here for the text, we are now getting a select and connecting this ready here with the wildcard. So on true, we can say ready, and on false, we can say not ready. Then for the avatar, we can, to keep it here more organized, drag in a new one of this variable here, break it again. We're taking the player state, and from here we are getting unique net ID from player state. Make sure to select this one here. And this one now we are using to get Steam friend avatar, connecting this here. And on success, we are now getting our avatar image here and say set brush from texture. And we are connecting this here with the return value. Okay, then we go to back here. And in the last tutorial, you used a character class to spawn it up here, and the same character class we have to open now. And in this character class, we're adding a widget. And this widget, we are moving it top above the head here and setting the widget class to player lobby info. Changing this here from space from world to screen and setting the draw at desired size to true. Then searching here for visibility, because by default at the very beginning at the load up I want to have this here invisible, and once the setup is done, so after a very short amount of time, then we will set it visible. Then I'm going to event graph, creating here a new function and calling this update lobby info. and adding a new variable here, calling this player lobby info. Also, we can maybe rename this update player lobby info. So this variable here, I'm setting the type to player as player lobby info and changing this here to rep notify. So that's fitting perfectly in here because when a new player joins the lobby, it will automatically load the data that is stored in here. And also the rep notify function, if you set this here to rep notify, you see a new function on rep player notify player lobby info is here created. And yeah, this will also fire. So we connect this here with the update player lobby info. And in general, if you're calling rep notify, if you're setting rep notify variables, you need to make sure that they are only being set by the server. And we are taking care of that later because we are going to executing this function only from the server. So let's go here to the on-rep player lobby info. So this will basically triggering on all players replicated. And we are getting now here the same variable. And getting here also the widget. We can also rename the widget here to lobby info. And first checking if first getting the widget and checking if that is valid. Because often when this is triggering here at load up, the widget, even if we selected here widget class, this one is still not valid, like at the very beginning. And yeah, we're just checking if that is already set up, then it's valid. If not, then we just wanna execute the same function again after a really short amount of time. So we setting here a timer by function name and clicking here on the on-rep player info function, copying the function name, so the same function we're in right here, and pasting this in the function name, setting the time here to maybe 0.1 seconds. So it goes in here, maybe it is already valid, but maybe it's not. And if not, it will just repeat the function after 0.1 seconds. And already in the second run through, it should be valid here. If not, then it will go through until this turns to be valid. So on is valid. We now wanna getting here this get widget and casting to player info, player lobby info. And here we want to call the update function and connecting this here. And we set this widget here by default to non-visible. We can drag this in here because now we updated it and it's set up completely. Then we want to set this here to visible true. So the next thing we want to do is that the server is triggering this update here. And for that, we are going to the game mode and creating a new function calling this update player lobby info. And this will basically updating this lobby info for a specific player on the platform. So we're adding an input here to this function and calling this requesting PC. And the type here, player controller. And now, among all platforms we have stored in here, we want to check which one has this player controller here. So we're getting here a for each loop. And we're getting here the PC and checking if it equals this here. So in case we found here a match, then we wanna getting the character here, get cone character, casting to third person character or casting to the character class you did this stuff in here. And calling now the update player lobby info function. And for this pin here, we are now getting a make. Then we are getting the requesting PC. As we have this here as input pin, we can also go and right click here and search for requesting PC. So this is basically the same value as this one here. Same variable. Here we are now casting to, don't have the player controller class, I guess. Let's check here. So, right, player controller. Let's create a new player controller class first. So, creating here a new ribbon class, player controller, BP underscore lobby PC, and dragging this here on the player controller class. Then I'm going in here and adding a new variable and calling this player lobby info PC here as type player lobby info, and can go back to the game mode, casting here to the lobby PC. Can right click on this to make this here a pure cast, and getting here the player lobby info PC. Then we can break this, connecting, we don't connect the PC here. We're taking here for the PC, we're taking the requesting PC, so we can duplicate this here. Taking this here. For the player name, we have now two options. If you want to go with the player name, then you also take the requesting PC, get player name, and connect this here with the name. So if you have watched my tutorial about name tags, then you've seen a system where I'm setting the player name in the main menu, and that's basically just storing the player name in the game instance. And yeah, if you want to go with this system, then you can also connect this here. And yeah, I will come back to that in a bit in the player controller. But if you want to go with the Steam name, you can also go just like this. So the ready status, we're just connecting, and the player state, we're getting here from the requesting PC, get player state, and connecting this here with the player state. So yeah, if we found a match, there's no need that this for loop will going to the next element and continue searching for the PC here. So we can add here in the function a return node, And yeah, if we're calling this return node, then this function will be completed and not doing anything anymore. And that also means if we add here a return node, so if the return node never triggered here, so like if the return node triggers, then this completed here will never be executed. But if not, so if we didn't find any match here, if it never gone through here or failed here or whatever, then the completed will trigger here. And the system is built up that it should always work here. And in case if not, if something was not completely loaded up, if there was no character spawned yet and it tried to update already or so, then we want to repeat this process here. So we are going to lobby PC and creating here a custom event where we are saying try again updating lobby info and adding a small delay here, maybe of 0.1 seconds. Then getting the game mode and casting to the lobby GM. And executing here update player lobby info. And here for the requesting PC, we are just getting self. Then we can go back to the game mode, where we are then from here getting a requesting PC and say cast to lobby PC with a pure cast and say try again updating lobby info and connect this here with the completed. So the next thing we want to have is that the player asks the server to update the info here for this player. So we're going to the lobby PC we created here, and first of all we are creating a new function and calling this setup and making sure to call this on event we can play. Can move this up here maybe. So, and in the setup, so the player controller is existing on the server and on the player itself, but what we're doing now is only relevant to the player itself. So the server doesn't need to do this stuff. So we're checking here with the branch is local player controller, and we want to set show mouse cursor. We want to show the mouse cursor so we can click on stuff in the lobby, and we want to then also set input mode to game and UI, so we still have the possibility to have some keyword inputs. For the player controller, going with self. For the hide cursor during capture, better disable that. And then I create a widget, and this should be our lobby UI that we can create here now. Creating a new widget, user widget, calling this wb_lobby UI. Opening this here, adding a canvas panel, and just adding here a horizontal box, setting this anchor to bottom, and dragging this horizontal box down here. Maybe the alignment here to 0.5 and here to, let's say 2. So we can set it to the position here on 0, 0. And in this horizontal box, we can add 2 buttons. I want to add 1 button for toggling the ready status and another button for the server to start the match. Yeah, you can go here with the normal button, or you can go with the custom button, which I recommend. You can watch this tutorial for that. It's basically the same button, so there's no necessity for you to using this button. In the end, it's really, really similar to use. So I'm adding here the button, typing toggling ready. Also, I want to set this horizontal box to size to content. And adding another button in here for start match. And adding to both, or adding to this button here, to the padding to the left, maybe 50, and here also to the right 50. Okay, that looks fine. So then we go back to lobby PC, selecting here the lobby UI, promoting this to a variable, lobby UI ref, and adding this to viewport. Okay, also I want to come back to the player name I talked before. If you want to go, as I said here in the game mode, if you want to go with the Steam name, you can just doing it like here. And if you want to go with the name as I showed it in my name text tutorial, so that you can set the name from the main menu, you're taking this one here, and then you can get in here the game instance, get game instance, cast to the game instance we created there in the tutorial, getting the player name, and we want to create here a new custom event, which we call set player name on server, and we are running this on server reliable, and as input we're adding here a text called player name. We are doing this here, and getting also getting this here and say set members in, and taking the player name, connecting this and this. So you can do it like this. If you want to go with this name that you can set in the main menu, if you want to go with the Steam name, as I mentioned, you're using this, but also it would be still necessary that you calling in this setup function here an event that is run on server. This wouldn't be necessary in that case, but an event that is run on server and is calling this. So like this, that you're doing this, it is necessary. So you can also do it like this, that you're calling this set name. Doesn't matter because it will be overwritten or would be ignored here anyway if you're going with directly here the Steam name. So here, just make sure to call here the event, connect this here, and then we can go back here and just try playing what happens, and there we can see it. You can see here the name that is now from the game instance. If we are going back here and going with the Steam name instead, You can see here the Steam name. Maybe you need to adjust the widget sizes or whatever, or shortening long names to prevent that they overlap. And yeah, what we finally want to do is changing the ready status. Also, if I would start now in standalone and have Steam open, then also the Steam avatar should load here. So let's change the ready status. Going back to lobby PC, creating a custom event here, naming this toggle ready status on server, setting this to run on server, reliable, getting here the player lobby info, breaking this, and set members in lobby info. Also taking here the ready status, connecting this one here. And now basically I want to take, because we want to toggle it, taking the opposite of this. And we can do this with a not boolean. Connect this here. And again, we want to call here cast to the game mode and update the player lobby info. So for quick testing, or in general, we can have also the input here. Adding a keyboard input here, and then clicking here on the keyboard and press R on your keyboard. So we have here the R input. And here we want to just calling the toggle ready status on server. If we play now, you can see here we can toggle between ready. If we're taking the other player, you can see it's replicated on both players. Now let's also make this button here functioning the same as if we would press R. So we are going for that to the lobby UI. Here on the button, we're going to the onClicked event and getting the player controller, casting to the lobby PC, and saying here toggle ready status on server. So if we try this, toggling the ready status, you can see it works here. The very last thing we want to do for this video is that we only want to show the start match button on the server, and we also only want to make it clickable if all players are ready. So let's do that now. We are going here in the lobby UI, we're creating an event construct and just checking here with a branch if this is triggered by the server. So is server. So if this is the host, and in that case we want to make the second button here, button, and rename this start match. In that case we want to make, by default we want to make this collapsed, and in case it is the server, we want to set the visibility to visible. Also, I'm adding here a variable, calling this be enough players ready, and going to the designer, going to the button, and where it says here enabled, we are binding this to enough players ready. So then let's go to the game mode, creating a new function and name it check if enough players are ready. Could also name it check if all players are ready. We're going here with the PCs, with the for each loop, getting the player or casting to the lobby PC. From there, get player lobby info PC. Breaking this. And now we want to check if this player is ready. And let's add here in this function a local variable. So important, a local variable, and calling this be all players ready. So we say when we're calling this function should first think like all players are ready, true. And then we're checking for each player, is it ready? And if one player is not ready, this will be set to false. And on completed, we can get here now get player controller. So since the game mode is only running on the server, and by that this function here is only running on the server, and this ready status here is also only relevant to the server, we can get here the get player controller. So this is basically getting the player controller only of the host of the server, and we can cast to the lobby PC, getting the lobby UI ref, and saying here that enough players ready. For this variable, we're going here with this all players ready variable, and on completed connect this here. So it starts here thinking all players are ready, and it will also return then true. But in case at least one player was not ready, it will be set to false, and then not all players are ready, and it will go in here with a false pin. Only thing we need to do now is going to the function update player lobby info, and here at the very end we need to call this function. And now let's test it. I'm going here with 2 players as listen server and a standalone game, and by the way I have Steam running in the background, so let's test it. So here we are, and you can see the Steam name is loaded correctly and also the Steam avatar. And by the way, the Steam avatar is now also working if you're not friends on Steam. So if there are any other Steam players in the lobby, you can see their avatar. And you see here right now the server cannot start the match, but we can hear going ready. There's a bit of a lag, but you see here it's replicating. If we're toggling ready here, then you can also see here now it's replicating correctly. Then we can also start a match. And also if you in a normal way host a match and then join it, it should also be quicker in the replication. I don't know why this lag is right now here. Next tutorial, it would be adding here buttons for inviting other players, integrating the friend list. I also created this tutorial about, and also the ability for the host to kick other players from the lobby. So see you then.